This is the story of Evelyn and Arthur, a couple who had spent 50 years building a life out of sweat and sawdust and quiet devotion. They lived in a house made of solid oak and memories where every floorboard creaked with a story of a child raised or a winter survived, and their son Benjamin was the crown of that life, or so they believed, because they had poured every cent of their savings into his education and his business ventures, never realizing that they were watering a poisonous vine that would eventually strangle them both. On the morning of their golden anniversary, Benjamin arrived at their doorstep with a smile that was too bright and a hug that felt like a snake coiling around a branch. He carried a silver envelope and told them that they were going on a journey to the turquoise waters of the tropics, a luxury cruise that would take them to a place where the sun kissed the sea and the worries of the world could not find them. Arthur looked at his calloused hands and wondered if he still belonged in such a place, but Evelyn saw the excitement in her son's eyes and agreed, because a mother always wants to believe the best of her child even when the shadows are growing long. They traveled for hours until they reached a private dock where a sleek white boat waited for them, and Benjamin kissed their cheeks and handed them a heavy mahogany box, saying they must not open it until they reached the secluded beach of Emerald Cove, where the silence was absolute and the beauty was divine. As the boat pulled away, Evelyn waved until her arm ached, watching her son shrink into a tiny speck on the shore, and she felt a strange chill despite the heat of the noon sun. Because there was something in the way the captain looked at them that felt like a man looking at ghosts. The boat dropped them off on a sliver of white sand surrounded by jagged black rocks and a jungle so dense it looked like a wall of green glass, and the captain threw their bags onto the sand and sped away without a single word of farewell, leaving them in a silence so heavy it felt like lead. Arthur opened the mahogany box expecting champagne or jewelry, but instead he found a thick stack of papers and a satellite phone that had been smashed to pieces with a hammer. Evelyn reached for the documents, and her heart withered as she read the words, because they were deeds to their house and their land and their life insurance policies, all signed over to Benjamin through a series of clever forgeries and legal tricks they had unknowingly authorized. During a family dinner weeks prior, there was a handwritten note at the bottom of the stack that said, "Thank you for everything, but you are too expensive to keep alive, and the world is better suited for the young." And the hungry Arthur felt the fire of betrayal burn through his veins, and he looked at the horizon where no boat would ever return for them. But Benjamin had forgotten one crucial thing about his father, because Arthur was not just a carpenter. He was a man who had served in the deep jungles of a forgotten war, and he knew how to read the language of the leaves and the intentions of the tides. He took Evelyn's hand and told her that they were not going to die on this beach like discarded trash, and they began to move into the treeline using the skills of a lifetime to find water and shelter, while the sun began to sink like a bloody coin into the ocean. For 3 days they survived on grit and rain and the shared heat of their bodies. While back in the city, Benjamin was already drinking expensive scotch and showing off the plans for the shopping mall he would build on his parents' grave. But on the 4th day, a supply plane for a nearby research station spotted the signal fire Arthur had built using the very mahogany box that was meant to be his coffin. And when they were finally rescued, Evelyn did not cry or scream, but instead, she clutched the forged papers to her chest like a weapon of war. They returned to the city not as victims, but as the reckoning that Benjamin never saw coming. And when they walked into their own living room where Benjamin was sitting in Arthur's favorite chair, the look on his face was worth every second of the terror they had endured. Arthur did not call the police immediately, but instead he sat down across from his son and showed him the ledger of a lifetime of love that had been met with a knife to the back, and he told him that the anniversary gift was not the trip, but the truth, because now they knew exactly what kind of monster they had created, and they would spend their remaining years ensuring he had nothing left but the cold iron bars of a cell where he could contemplate the cost of a soul sold for a piece of land and a pile of stolen gold.